independent. You know it. You love it. You can't live without it. Rockland World Radio.
Hi everyone, welcome to another week of Twerking 9 to 5. I'm your host, Khumbo. It is beautiful here in New York. It's great. It's been beautiful all day. It's even beautiful in Nyack. Like usually when I travel up, it's always really warm in the city, and then I get to Nyack and it's a little bit chilly. And today it's been perfect. It's been great. My brother has been complaining about the fact that it's raining nonstop or something in Melbourne in Florida, and he is not very happy. And I'm like, yep, you are the African who picked the wrong state. Well, just in this context, otherwise he's probably in the right state. Because it's always so warm over there and not always so warm here. Anyways, great things, or interesting and other things happening on the internet this week and in the world. There's a lot going on in Baltimore right now, right? At least everyone on Facebook, all of my friends were talking about everything going on in Baltimore. You get on Twitter and everyone's talking about Baltimore and, all this riots and, what I like to consider a revolution. Like some people call it a riot, I call it a revolution because that's kind of what it is. It's the same thing that's happening, or that happened in Egypt a couple of years ago, and now it's happening in ever-increasing pockets here in the United States. And I've been reading a lot of articles about social media and how social media has played this great role in kind of bringing out these sides of stories that we don't usually see from mainstream media. And there's been a lot of this, especially with Baltimore. You go to Facebook or you go to Twitter, and there's a lot of people who are posting pictures of things that you're not going to see on regular media, or things that you're not gonna see, pictures of Baltimore that you're not gonna see in the New Yorker or whatever, just showing all the different aspects to what's happening in Baltimore right now. And that was what was so effective, I think, in Egypt with the revolution at Tahrir Square, that social media really played such a huge part of what happened in Egypt, and kind of how the world responded, and how the world kind of got to see what was happening in Egypt, not just through the lens of, CNN or BBC or Al Jazeera, but through the lens of the people who were there firsthand in the square, participating, witnessing, being there with family members, first aid respondents, all of these people kind of mixed in to this really huge event that happened and still continues to have ramifications today. And so Baltimore is going to be, or is still, increasingly interesting because of that, because there are so many different perspectives and so many different views that you're not just getting the one view, but in a way you kind of are. In a world where we're getting so much of our information off of Facebook or off of Twitter, it's very expansive, but I think that it's also very limiting, because I think that sometimes the news that you're getting or the opinions that you're getting on some of these platforms are very much keyed in to who your friends are, right? Who you're actually connecting with on these platforms. That kind of puts into context the kind of news that you're going to be getting, or the kind of opinions that you're going to be getting about any subject. It really depends on who you're friends with, who your connections are. There's that one quote where it's show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. I think that's definitely true on social media, because even if you have 300 to 400 friends, if 300 of them or 250 of them are of a certain opinion, then that's the opinion that you're mainly going to be getting, through your timeline and stuff. So that's kind of interesting, I think, when it comes to Facebook and Twitter. I think sometimes you have to go outside of the things that you're being shown on social media. It's a great tool, but I think it can also be an incredibly limiting tool. But I was also reading this one article about kind of talking about the downside of having all this social media, is that you have all of these almost like these community activists, you know, people who are there, they're on the ground, they're there before even the news teams are there. Like, they're posting up pictures before CNN and BBC and Al Jazeera has this. They're talking to people firsthand. They're using all of these great tools like Periscope, where they're taking videos and having interviews with these people who are affected right then and there. But I think then there's also the reverse of that, in that you have all of these people who have smartphones and are going out and they're taking these pictures and they're taking these videos. And on the other side of that is all of these people, you know, who are constantly the object of all of these pictures and videos. Like, it's great that you know, we're getting all of these images out there, but then there's also the people who are almost being victimized constantly by having their pictures taken or having like videos taken of them. So it's kind of like this reverse thing of, okay, now we have all this news, but then there's also, at what point does it stop, and at what point do we kind of give people their dignity to not constantly be shoving a camera in their faces, especially in such a trying time as Baltimore. But yeah, talking about like social media and all the great things about Twitter and Facebook is like, I'm constantly on Twitter and Facebook. I feel like I spend so much of my day and so much of my time because it's so easy. You know, like, your phone is right there. You're waiting for the train. You're waiting for the bus. Like, you pull out your phone. You want to see like what's happening on Facebook, what's happening on Twitter. Even though half the time, nothing is happening on any of these social platforms, right? It's like what you saw 5 minutes ago is not going to be that different from what you're going to see now. But for some reason, I'm constantly checking my phone. And I was reading this article on my phone called "Why Don't We Read Anymore?" Which is really funny, because when I found this article, I was like, oh yeah, this is a really great article. I should definitely read this article about why we don't read anymore. And 2 seconds in, or 5 minutes into reading this article, I was like, oh wait, I need to check my Facebook and my Twitter. Like, I couldn't even concentrate on this article long enough. This article that was talking about why we really don't read anymore. I couldn't concentrate on it. But today I finally sat down. I was like, okay, I'm going to read this article because I think it's going to be great and I really want to talk about it on the show today. So I focused and I sat down and I read this article. And this guy, Greg McGuire, who wrote the article, was talking about the same thing, where he is involved, like, he does a lot of, gosh, I know he, like, now I'm blanking on all the awesome things this man has done, but his job involves books, and he's always around books or writing about books, and, you know, his job revolves around books. But he was talking about how he finds it so difficult sometimes to sit down and really read a book. You know, because he'll let checking Twitter or checking Facebook or checking his email just get in the way, and he can never really get through a book. And he was talking about how last year he only read 4 books. He only read 4 books last year. And it's so true. I feel like when I was younger, I'm still young, but when I was younger, I feel like I read so much more than I do right now. And I guess a lot of people will be like, oh, it's all the different factors. It's like stress, and you're trying to begin your life and pay your rent and, you know, not be a burden on society. But still, I just feel like I do not read as much as I should read, which is the complete opposite of my really, really good friend Maggie, who is an absolute voracious reader. I mean, she reads everything in sight. She has a goal every year of reading like 100 books, and she reaches it. She really does. She is constantly reading. And I think it's just so simple. Like, she just reads whenever she has free time. And I think that's the thing, is that I fill up my time with my phone when I really should be filling it up with a book. But no, I just found that very interesting, that we kind of focus so much. We've been taught almost over the years that multitasking is the way to go, that you are more productive if you're doing 5 things at once than if you're only doing one thing. But that's not true. I mean, there have been studies, I mean, lots and lots of studies done on actually all of the things that are wrong with multitasking. That when you multitask, God, I don't know, my brain today is crazy. But when you multitask, you are actually doing more harm than good. Like when you cannot focusing on multiple things as compared to focusing on just one thing actually makes you less productive, because you're not actually concentrating long enough to accurately complete something and then move on to the next thing. Apparently it does this, it completely rewires our brains when we multitask. And I know that there are people out there who are going to be like, oh, I've been multitasking for years and I've been fine and I'm super productive and I get a lot of things done. And I'm not saying that it's that way for everyone. I'm sure that there are people out there who are great multitaskers and they get 20 things done in a day and they're good. And there are other people who try to get 20 things done in a day and then at the end of the day, they only got 5 things done and those 5 things were done poorly. So, I mean, I'm trying more now to be more focused on just one thing and then kind of leave everything else on the wayside. And so we're going to see if this experiment actually works. It probably won't. I'll let you know by next week whether I am pulling my hair out or feeling surprisingly good about everything. So it's, again, getting warmer and warmer and warmer. I am so excited. All of the great summer activities that are going to be happening. I'm definitely going to try and make the most of being in New York again over the summer and just doing all of the crazy things that the city has to offer. Let me know what crazy things you guys will be doing, as well as your thoughts on Baltimore and Facebook journalism and Twitter journalism and multitasking and all of that great stuff. You can follow me at One Girl Revolution on Twitter. That's the number 1, girl, G-U-R-L, revolution. So at One Girl Revolution on Twitter. Also, great local plug and shout out. The Nyack Village Theater, where I do this show, and it's an awesome show, which Richard produces each and every single week. He's great. We have a production of the Hot L Baltimore, which will be opening, what date does it open?
First weekend in June.
First weekend in June, and runs every weekend in June. So if you guys want to come, if you're in the area, come to Nyack, come to the Nyack Village Theater, come see this hilarious show. It's so funny. The cast is great. It's a great story. Come see me. Come see Richard, who does all this amazing stuff here, and just come see the production and support local theater. So yeah, I will see you guys next week with more awesome things that are happening here in Nyack, in the USA, and also around the world. Okay, you guys have a lovely week. Bye.
It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com